Seeding, firstly, we must understand is an SOS measure. It's not a permanent solution to the pollution challenge. Coaching essentially is whenever there is a significant gap between demand and supply, there will be coach things like coaching will come in to address that gap, and we certainly have a significant gap in number of students wanting to get high quality engineering education and the number of such seats available to this for the students.
We begin, Professor Agrawal, with you can intervene anytime. I'll begin with a few questions, and then my colleagues will take over. So the first thing no, I wanted to ask you is for the last few years we have been constantly hearing that going forward, uh, science and technology would and especially some of these niche technologies would become the primary driver of economy in the coming decades, in the next 1 or 2 decades. So, keeping that in mind, I just wanted to ask you whether uh, how prepared we are for this, and what more needs to happen on this front.
Well, it's a question that requires a little longer answer,
Hmm.
I suppose. Uh, it is clear to everybody who's been paying attention that technology is changing our lives dramatically, and it will continue to do so. The speed at which technological innovations are happening is only increasing. It is not reducing at all. So, uh, what happens, I mean, a technology that was not even known 10 years ago today has gotten so seeped into our lives that we don't even often pay attention to it. And so that's the kind of hold that it has developed in our lives. Just to take an example, I think the current generation cannot even imagine a life without mobile phones. But to those of us who have gray hair, we know very well that we lived perfectly without mobile phones. We could find, we can go from point A to point B also without mobile phones, even if we were new to that, that path.
Yeah.
So all that has changed now. Now, when it comes to India, we initially relied on technology which was being developed and produced outside India, and we just adopted to it. We adopted very well to it, I must say. But the real innovations, I would say, were not happening until maybe Aadhaar was the beginning, and then UPI certainly was a remarkable innovation which brought about huge changes, and it's a fully homegrown technology. And as we go forward, I would say that we need to become increasingly self-reliant on this technology because at least critical technology, you cannot hope to produce all technologies possible. No country in the world can. There has to be interdependence, but certain critical technologies we have to have sovereignty over because uh, if access is denied to it, and there is non-zero chance, non-trivial or not insignificant chance that it will be at some point in time, then we if we don't have our own solution to that, we will be in an end up difficult situation. So uh, it is essential that we must do this. Efforts are underway, I would say, to make this happen. This will require joining of hands of academia, industry, and government, all acting together to make this happen, especially when it comes to critical technologies, which require significant investment and long gestation period. So, as I was saying, that it has started happening. Uh, there have been. I'll just give you a couple of examples. There is in 2020 there was this national mission on cyber physical systems
Yeah.
uh, that nucleated a lot of activity all over the country. And that has been followed by many other missions led by, sort of funded by the government, but the focus is primarily for academic world to work together with the industries and develop technologies. So now we have National Quantum Mission, National AI Mission, National Semiconductor Mission, and several others, which are there either started or in the pipeline. And this is now complemented by this RDI,
Mm.
Research and Development, this RN Research, that's RDI fund, Research and Development Investment Fund,
Investment fund.
which is being led by ANRF.
Mm.
It's a very significant amount. And again, this is targeting development of key technologies. And this time it will be led by industry,
Mm.
supported by academia.
So it's interesting you mentioned self-reliance and technology sovereignty. We have been at the receiving end of technology denial regimes earlier, particularly in nuclear and space segments. But in the past, the trend was to go for international cooperation on most of the frontline technologies. Some of the most prestigious sort of scientific projects were collaborative projects. Things like ITER or LHC, and a whole range of international projects were out there. But now we are increasingly seeing talks about self-reliance, technology becoming something that you need to preserve and develop on your own. So are these two different trends, or are we seeing this self-reliance trend uh, that is sort of moving in the opposite direction than what we were moving in the way we were moving, say, 10 years ago?
To an extent, yes. To an extent, the movement has changed.
Hmm.
10 years ago, there was a general belief that major countries, except there were some exceptions, but most countries will cooperate
Yeah.
when it comes to key technologies. Well, of course, nuclear and some defense technologies, there were barriers, and it was kind of understandable that, okay, there would be because oh, there are some the countries will want to maintain strategic edge in certain areas,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to national security. But otherwise, in key technologies, there will be cooperation. But now, and if you look at the what has happened in past few years, that belief has been shaken. And again, I'll take an example which happened very recently
Hmm.
when the European Union sanctioned certain Indian companies
Hmm.
for importing Russian oil.
Correct.
And based on that sanction, Microsoft blocked access to their entire software suite, to one other company, Naira Energy.
Hmm.
And this was a kind of an eye opener to everyone that one never expected that this can happen. All your data is gone
Hmm.
instantaneously, because these days we all store our data on the cloud in one of the service providers. Of course, that matter got sorted out. Somebody probably over enthusiastic in Microsoft hacked it. But the key point or key takeaway from this is that in case, let us say, US decides tomorrow to have an adversarial position or relationship with India, and it's almost halfway there, but still not fully. But
Hmm.
suppose it does, and then they can simply instruct these companies, which are all US based, to cut off the complete access, and we cannot do anything.
Hmm.
We can complain, but that's about it. All our data will be gone. And that is quite a scary thought. And not only data, I mean, we can't even run our software systems if we don't have access to Windows or Android or iOS. Some may say that is an extreme thought. It's not going to happen. The counter argument to that is, of course, it seems it is extreme, but we have to at least be mentally prepared for such an eventuality,
Hmm.
because it may happen. I mean, it is not unthinkable that it will happen.
Hmm.
It can happen. And if it happens and we are not prepared, then we can't function.
So, would you then recommend, as a lot of people do these days, that Indian companies should be investing and developing their own operating systems, business suits, office suits, and mostly, at least the public infrastructure should move on to these kind of applications which are homegrown. We saw recently, something similar happening with the government. Uh, Moving on to an Indian companies starting to use all the government applications, starting to use an Indian company's software. So is that something that is being actively encouraged officially? Are there companies which are doing this? And do we have enough expertise and resources to be able to develop all these softwares on our own? And not just software, I'm talking about like technologies in general.
Yeah, but as regard to expertise and ability is concerned, we do have that. I, and it's after all Indian talent which has developed this uh, in US. Actually, not exclusively Indian talent, but a lot of talent who has developed it originally originated from India. So we do have that kind of ability. But what it will need is a significant investment and patience. It cannot happen overnight. If you are looking to develop a OS, well, it's a long haul. It, it's not happening in a couple of years. And also, in the model also has to be correct. There have been attempts in the past to develop an Indian OS. Uh, CDAC developed it once and was uh, you know talked about quite a bit. But what is clear to me is that if a government entity or an academic institution develops this, it will die very soon, because it's one thing to develop a software, It's a completely different ballgame to maintain and keep upgrading it. You have to be constantly on your toes because uh, new things keep coming up. There are security vulnerabilities which are found, and you have to keep patching it up. There has to be a large group of people committed towards this. So it cannot be, and it can neither happen in the government sector, not in academia. It has to happen in private sector. But again, there cannot be a monopoly. If you have let one person, one industry have a monopoly, then they will have little incentive to continuously improve. So it has to be competitive. So that's where the challenge lies. That one, and this is something that the government has to play a role in nudging this to happen. It cannot mandate it, but it can certainly facilitate it. That let there be some multiple options there, and requires significant investment and patience. But we need to start now.
So you mentioned in your opening remarks also that, you know, it would be not possible for any country to, develop every technology that it needs on its own. So you have to focus on certain things, whatever is
Right.
in your interest. So what are the few things, say 5 or 6 areas, sectors that India needs to, one, it has the capability to actually become a world leader. Two, it needs to do it from a strategic point of view. And three, that it also makes business sense for for companies to actually start investing in. So what are those 5, 6 areas that we can actually focus on and become world leaders?
Yeah. So these have to be strategic areas uh, which are absolutely critical to the way we function. Uh, One would be all the foundational software, whether it is operating system to uh, email, just the email software, the browser, and so the things that we use every day. Uh, Other is um, on the hardware side, the uh, making of chips. Again, I would say that a processor chip, making a processor chip is can wait because we are still far off from there, but at least we can start making all other designing and making other chips in the country. Another different domain, but very critical, is space. Uh, the way the space is getting used for various strategic activities, we cannot afford to be left out of it. And we have to have our own satellites and other systems up there. Fourth one, which is of course everybody is talking about that these days, is the AI. That and this is not just limited to LLMs, but essentially ability to develop and use models for major tasks, and is something that we must develop on within. And of course, the very futuristic, the what a lot of people are talking about these days is AGI, not coming anytime soon, but it is something we must also work towards, develop our own expertise in this. Uh, then cybersecurity is another very important domain because the more software we use and the more connected our systems are, the security of those systems becomes exceptionally important. And we have to have our own tools to protect it. We can't rely on imported tools. Then in the health care side, the devices and medicines that uh, we should be developing many of them ourselves. Otherwise, the costs are going to go through the roof, and we won't be able to cater to the needs of our population. And that as the society progresses, the expectations and requirements will increase. So these are some of the domains off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are others too.
I'll ask one of my colleagues, Nikhil Ganekar, who has a question to join in. Nikhil, please go ahead.
Uh, Morning, Professor Agrawal.
Morning.
Yeah, Professor, I had a question regarding the recent cloud seeding experiment, and I'm sure you have fielded a lot of questions on this recently. So the collaboration that happened with Delhi government, there has been a lot of questions asked of IIT Kanpur as to the timing of the experiment and so on and so forth. My question was, how prudent was it to, first of all, carry this kind of experiment outside of monsoon months? And because the science regarding cloud seeding is something that is not evolved compared to say other experiments. That is one. And secondly, in terms of the public money that is spent on such experiments, on such kind of crisis kind of situations, does it have a temporary fix, and is it really helpful?
Yeah, so cloud seeding, firstly, we must understand is an SOS measure. It's not a permanent solution to the pollution challenge, but it's a measure that you can consider if there is too much pollution in the air and you are looking for ways to tackle it. Uh, Doing it in the monsoon season defeats its purpose because we have to do it when there is pollution. Monsoon, anyway, there is no pollution or very little. So that's not worth doing the seeding at that time. We were very aware that when we did the seeding, that I should say when we did the seeding, which was very highly reported in the media, on that day, the cloud moisture content was quite low, below 15%. So we knew that it's not going to rain. We did that because, as you rightly said, the science in this cloud seeding domain is not fully evolved, it's not fully understood. So we wanted to do it as an experiment to collect data, to improve our understanding. And the data we wanted to collect was this is the moisture content in the clouds, this is the wind speed, this is the amount of seeding material that we have pumped in, and this is the change that has happened because of it. And change would be measured in terms of, let's say, increase in the moisture or humidity in the areas nearby. So that's the kind of data we used that experiment for and collected it. And we did a couple of rounds later on also, but then thankfully they were not so well reported in the media, so we could do it peacefully. Uh, Unfortunately, media has a way of projecting things that when we started seeding, they just said that despite my request that, look, we are trying it out, the outcomes are not certain. So they projected it as, so this is going to solve Delhi's pollution problem. And when it didn't rain, then they said this is all useless. So they went from one extreme to the other. But the our target still remains the same, that we would like to continue doing this to understand better what works and what doesn't. And hopefully, when we do get during this sequence of trials, a day when moisture content is reasonably high, then we can have rain as well.
I had a follow-up to the last part that you mentioned, that the experiment will probably be conducted once again, and to check what is the efficacy. But the question about What after one spell happens or a couple of spell happens, those questions still remain, and I know that there are a lot of other people also involved in this as stakeholders to solve the issue. But in the end, do you not think that this is only a quick fix or a temporary fix?
It is a
Thank you.
temporary fix, of course. It is. Like I said, it is an SOS measure. Uh, the
I think
ideal solution is that we curb the sources of pollution. But if there is pollution in the air, this is one of the tools available to try to address it.
I'm sorry, there was someone's mic was switched on. Please switch off your mics so that there is no disturbance during the conversation. Uh, Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
continue that. So yeah, it is a temporary fix because if you do the seeding, you make it rain, the pollution comes down, it will go up again in a few days because the sources of pollution are still there. They keep on pumping more and more pollution. But overall, if you look at it the following way, during, let's say, the winter 4 months in Delhi, let's say there is, one can look up the data, let's say there is, in that 4 month period, there is 10 mm of rain that happens. And whenever the rain happens, it does bring down, it gives you few pollution free days. Now, with seeding, if we can increase that 10 to say 20, 25 mm, it will create more pollution free days, and that's a win. Especially if you compare it against the cost of it, because the overall cost, again, is very back of the envelope calculation for the entire season. If it continue doing seeding, will be about around 25 odd crores. The amount of money that is spent in curbing pollution in Delhi during winter period. So it's a small fraction of that. And as I said, it is one of the tools available in that for this purpose.
I also wanted to just get you back to our conversation on building technological capability in the country. So, uh, one of the things that you mentioned is the fact that a lot of these critical technologies that we are currently dependent on other countries and other companies on, uh, a significant part of that actually comes on the back of Indian talent, which is working in those companies and those countries. Uh, Now, there is also this talk of getting Indian talent back into the country, and give them this sort of opportunities that they are looking out for when they go abroad. You have been one of those who have stayed back in the country and worked here. What are the kind of things that are happening now to attract uh, these talents, especially our own people, to come back to the country and start working here, and maybe also looking at foreign talents, providing them opportunities to come to India and do technology development here. So, is some effort being made in that direction, and what are those efforts?
Yeah, so is we can be grateful for one effort for which we didn't have to do anything. It was done in the US, which uh, forced a lot of people or Indians living there to think about coming back to India, and they are still considering it. From outside, there is a proposal which is, I believe, almost finalized by Government of India. Still has to clear the last hurdle I told, which is to create a very attractive offering to very well accomplished people, whether as it not necessarily very senior, but junior also, but those who have a very strong track record, to bring them back to India in Indian academic institutions. So there is a special package which will be offered to them, helping them settle down, set up their labs and everything. And hopefully, with that, or leveraging that, we can bring more and more talent back to India. Also, in addition to not just this facilitation, it is increasingly true that the that India is uh, growing rapidly and is providing opportunities of doing new things, creative things, more and more compared to many developed countries who seem to be taking contrary positions. If you look at European Union, for example, they seem to actively discourage any innovation. Uh, US still has a bleed there, but then things are changing in US too. So we have an opportunity. We are well positioned to use that opportunity. The key thing which will decide how well it plays out will be execution. How well can we execute this?
Uh, is there enough happening within institutions, premier institutions like uh, IITs and other scientific institutions, which offer enough of a challenge, especially to academics to, you know, uh, decide to make a move to come back to India?
So that's uh, this, I would say partly yes. That's a short answer. The long answer is uh, if you look at the evolution of Indian academia, there was a time we were primarily focused in teaching, and rightly so. Very early days, we just wanted to train more and more people. Then uh, effort was started being put in doing research, publish papers, guide PhD students. And over time, many institutions have done quite well in that direction. But at the same time, there was not much interaction with the industry. And it has been something which has been talked about, written about quite a few times. So I don't have to highlight or explain why that this has happened. But clearly, there was a shortcomings on both sides. But in, let's say, last decade or so, what has been happening is that a growing realization in academia that we must not only do research, but also look at the aspects of translating that research from the lab to a solution which is impactful on the ground. The government of India, in fact, has taken a conscious decision to promote this. The significant amount of funding and these missions that I talked about are examples of that, where a large amount of funding has been pumped into this, but with a very clear mandate that the output cannot just be research papers, but output has to be technologies. And academia is responding to it. So, but in academia is always has a high inertia. Is it by very nature it has high inertia. So while things are changing, they right now we are in that transition phase. So that's why I said partly yes. Industry is much more nimble, certainly. But and that is so uh, that's changing definitely in industry. The great advantage industry is that if a company doesn't change, it's going to become irrelevant, and new ones will come up who are much more dynamic.
Hmm.
So there is a kind of a natural selection at play there. So a lot of new startups are coming in. They are all, if you go to Bangalore or as Hyderabad, Pune, and now Noida, Gurgaon. So these are places where a lot of new startups are there, a lot of excitement is there, new ways are being thought about, talked about. The connect with academia is increasing, and so that provides a platform for these talented people from outside to come back and become part of this whole churn.
So, my colleague Ritika probably has a question on this also. Ritika, please go ahead.
Morning, sir. Hi. Uh, sir, you mentioned earlier just that retaining um, faculty abroad. I mean, retaining them here in India would depend on how well the program is executed. I have a follow-up question on retention, which of course would be the biggest challenge. Once you attract them with an attractive package, and IITs have been making a very concerted effort to attract foreign talent much before this. So I don't think anyone is better placed than an IIT director or an IIT professor to assess what needs to change. So, given that experience, what, according to you, are the three, say, most important changes that India must bring in its academic and research ecosystem to retain foreign faculty? Given that the IITs have been doing this, and you would be familiar with what is it that our academic and research ecosystem lacks?
Okay, so one is the while we do provide sorry freedom to our faculty to pursue their own uh, activities or directions, we have a broadly a very permissive attitude towards non-performance. It is uh, there are some positive aspects of this and some negative. Uh, in the positive side, it uh, does not create too much unhappiness in your system in the institute. But on the downside of this is that the uh, the people or the faculty are who need some amount of push in order to do well, and if they do get pushed, they will do very well. They end up perhaps not achieving that much. So that's something that we must address as a collective as to see the risk. We consider ourselves meritocracy in the academia. Uh, the merit has to be kept front and center, and we have to evolve ways of making that happen. We don't have to go to the level in the US, certain US universities where everyone is competing against everyone. And, but we need to adopt certain very good practices that are followed there. That that keeps the edge going in the academia world. So that would be one thing that we need to change a bit. Another would be facilities, or I should say, and this is not just the Indian academia alone that needs to change. That is, I would say, the government also has to step in there. What happens is that let's say, get some funding and create a certain set of facilities for doing research. There is expensive equipment there. Uh, it is not enough to install these but one also equally important to maintain this and upgrade these equipments. Often, there is very little money available for that purpose. We can write, individual faculty can write project proposals, get funding, buy an equipment, maybe buy an equipment with, say, 3 years of maintenance baked in. But after that, and in fact, not only that, even if the equipment the maintenance is baked in, the institute has to create a structure to house that equipment, provide electricity, air conditioning to in that setup. So that's all extra cost to the institute. And once you add up everything over time, these costs become very significant burden on the institute. And there is no way that cost is met except from internal resources of the institute. Now, our internal resources are also limited because we can't raise the fees arbitrarily, and we can't even raise it without permission from the government, and for good reasons, I would say. So, put together, it creates a situation where the maintenance and upkeep of these equipments is not optimal. That has to change because if that doesn't get fixed, we will not be able to provide that strong setup or environment for these researchers to work.
So I just have one small follow-up, sir. Since you have spoken about, of course, maintenance of equipment, and you've spoken about maybe emulating some of the strong practices in the US. I was speaking with a senior scientist recently, and it sounded like a quibble, but he said that this actually does impact the research system a lot. That he's mentioned that in the US, scientific and technical staff who are actually responsible for maintaining equipment are treated at par, sometimes even in terms of pay, with scientists in the US. And they're actually recognized as a very vital part of maintaining a strong research ecosystem. Do you think that is something that India needs to emulate, that approach? And would that
Absolutely,
help?
yes. No, absolutely. That's a part of the maintenance and everything that, you can buy equipment, 10 crore equipment, put it in the place, but you have to run it, you have to maintain it. You need people, as you rightly said, experts to run it. Now, when it comes to that, the funding sources are very limited. And that is something that needs to be addressed because, uh, without that, we can have all the fancy equipments, but they may not work that well.
Thank you, sir.
So, Harish Damodaran has a question. Harish?
Yeah, hi, Professor. I think Amitabh also touched on this. Do you have? I mean, how many startups have you incubated? Because I've heard a lot about, say, IIT Madras, for example. Like, how many startups has, say, IIT Kanpur? Does industry come to you, for problems, to solve problems? What is the kind of structure? Same thing, like, say, for example, are your professors allowed to be on the boards of companies, and this kind of a thing? I mean, exactly what even Ritika was also talking about, how these are the kind of things maybe we can borrow from the US, where professors themselves, they start something on their own, and the university or IITs, etc., encourage that kind of a process. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a very important aspect of what is changing. Uh, our incubator has just crossed 500 startups incubated since its beginning, which was 25 years ago.
Okay.
But if you see, last 4 years, the number, in fact, currently, we are generally a startup is incubated for 2 to 3 years in our incubator. Current we have 240 startups incubated. So you can see that how the numbers are changing. It's going up very rapidly. Uh, Many of our faculty, in fact, the last count was 50 out of about 570 faculty we have, they have nucleated their own startups. Some of them actually are on way to become very successful. So these are primarily the younger faculty who are moving in that direction. So these are very good signs. Uh, we at IIT Kanpur, we realizing this need for encouraging it, we have set up this in an office earlier this year called Interface Office for Technology and Applications, nicknamed IOTA, which is focused towards helping our faculty and students translating their ideas into a technological solution and helping them, hand-holding them all the way. Also, to reach out to the outside world and bring important problem statements for our faculty to address and solve. And that is over time we have seen that it's increasing. We had recently, just a couple of months ago, an IITK industry conclave called Samanvay. This is something we started only last year. This was the second iteration. And we attracted more than 300 industry representatives from all over the country who came on campus, uh, interacted with various faculty and to see where we can work together. And many such partnerships have already been formed.
The next question is from Pallavi Smart. Pallavi, please go ahead.
Uh, Hi, sir. Sir, you spoke about limited sources of funding, and the government has been encouraging academic institutions to seek such support from industry. Many IITs are taking, efforts towards this. But what, according to you, are challenges in doing so? Do you see industry players are focused on certain commercial ideas, or those ideas having lesser period of translating into technology? Do you see there are challenges in connecting raising funds from industry for innovation?
Yeah, so this is a transition period. So there are still challenges in that Indian industry is also undergoing this transformation where I mean, the uh, earlier the use of technology was not so predominant. A lot of services were there. Even if products were there, they were kind of two generations behind what was available. Those things are changing, and to stay at the cutting edge requires constant R&D, and academia is best suited for that. So that kind of relationship or partnership are now getting formed. However, Indian academia is still primarily an unproven resource for the industry. If they need a critical problem to be solved and they have money to spend, they tend to go to a university with a proven track record. And these are often found in the US. And they get those problems solved there. Because there is, I would say, a lack of confidence in not necessarily the ability, but in the interest of Indian academia in solving their problem in a timely fashion. So this is something that both sides have to work on. From academic side, I would take from my perspective, I would say that the onus is more on academia to demonstrate that, yes, we are interested in taking up these challenging problems and producing their solutions, handing them over, workable solutions, in a time-bound manner. Because if you produce a solution in 5 years, that's probably useless. So industry is always interested in a timely solution. So once we bring that confidence, then fund flow from industry will become a lot more than what it is today.
So, Professor Agrawal, I uh, also wanted to raise this thing about the quality of human resources available, especially in science and technology. Uh, you have spoken in the past about the damage that the coaching industry probably is doing, and the fact that this is not the over reliance on coaching is not exactly the right way to go. So, you know one of the things would be why uh, coaching institutes have been so successful. So, what is wrong with the system which makes the coaching institutes so successful? And two, uh, if you can tell us if this trend is changing, what has changed in the intake of IITs, especially in the last few years? Have the student profiles changed? What are the kind of things that you have been noticing about the kind of students that are entering the IIT these days?
Yeah, so the coaching essentially is whenever there is a significant gap between demand and supply, there will be coach things like coaching will come in to address that gap, and we certainly have a significant gap in number of students wanting to get high quality engineering education and the number of such seats available to for the students. I would say the primary uh, target of students who are interested in engineering are IITs, and the next would be NITs, and then after that will be the other institutions. The total seats available in IITs, NITs, triple IITs put together would be less than 50,000, I would say. The number of students wanting to get in is 10, 20 times more. So that large gap is what gives rise to the coaching, because you want to maximize your chances of getting in. What also doesn't help is the test that we have for the admission test, that is. It is quite amenable to coaching in the sense that with coaching you can do significantly better than without coaching. So that also pushes students to avail the coaching. And now in theory there is nothing wrong in coaching for something. You just spend some money. But what has been happening because of the way the tests are okay. I was saying that uh, the way the tests are, which are multiple choice questions, the coaching institute teach students tricks to produce the correct solution without actually solving the problem. And what has this done is, on 2 years of such coaching, which many students undertake, they uh, when they enter the IITs, uh, their ability for problem solving is not developed properly, and they find it very challenging. We find it challenging to teach them. Uh, there is another phenomenon, which is that the the uh, there is a lot of media news every year that such and such student in such this place got multi-crore package. So all the students who then come in along with their families are already looking at, "Okay, okay, maybe we will also get the similar thing." So it all puts together to create a not so ideal learning environment, I would say. And that is the uh, something we must address. While the salary package is something that is determined by market forces, we can't do much about that. But at least we should be able to do a better way of testing the students and take. And that's I've been uh, championing that along with some other faculty members, that let's take a hard look at how we are testing. Maybe we can find a better way. And if we can, then the students will, we may get better students, because there is certainly a group of students who are very bright, but for some reason they are not able to either afford the coaching or not able to do the coaching, or simply are not interested in that 2 years of very painful preparation. So we don't get them.
Right. My colleague Harikishan has a question. Harikishan, please go ahead.
Good morning, Professor Agrawal.
Right.
My question is related to coaching only. There's a trend, there has been a trend for a while. Lots of parents are putting their kids in dummy schools, and uh, they put students, I think, from class 9 onwards in dummy school, and then they are sending them for coaching only. So, have you noticed in like in your campuses, in your campus and from other campuses also, like what kind of challenges you face when these kind of students who are coming from, say, who have not attended a regular school class, and what kind of behavioral challenges you find on campuses, because these students are coming from dummy schools, they have not attended class, and they have been just going through coaching online or offline.
Yeah, so many of the students are, because they're just too focused in coaching in their formative years, they do not uh, have developed fully the ability to interact, work together, and they end up being a bit of loners in campuses. And not only that, they also, because of the very protective environment they have been in throughout, uh, many of them are also find it somewhat challenging to uh, when they come across a difficult situation, and since they may not have many, let's say, friends within the campus, and so then it's that physical uh, interaction that used to happen a lot more earlier uh, doesn't happen now, and it at times gives rise to uh, mental difficulties, depression, and other problems in several students. We are seeing that happen increasingly more now. Uh, if this, there are many students who are, even if they are interacting with their friends within the hostel, is not face to face, it's over a screen. So that the mode of interaction has changed. The from earlier generations, uh, the uh, ability to be in a difficult situation and manage it has also changed. And this is leading to what, as I described, the challenges we see. Add to that a significant increase in the student population on campus. It is putting a lot of stress on the institute resources in terms of maintaining or keeping the mental health sound. And we are all witnessing it, we are all struggling to address it.
Professor Agrawal, you mentioned the seat to candidate ratio and the fact that number of quality engineering seats are still very few. Now IITs now are more than 20 IITs, 23 IITs now,
23.
23
23.
IITs. So one, is there a room and need for more IITs? And two, what is your assessment for the new of the newer IITs? How have they been doing?
So new IITs, uh, one has to give them time. If you are, we basically have now three generations of IITs. One is the older generation. Then there is a generation which started around 2008 or so. And the
ITBHQ
third,
and Pulki and all. Huh.
no, 2008 or so, these are Gandhinagar, Ropar, Patna. These are IITs, Hyderabad. They are around 2008 or so. Then another set of IITs started around 2015-16. IIT Goa, uh, IIT uh,
In Northeast.
Dharwad, and so on. There. So for me also, it's these are somewhat challenging to keep track of all the IITs. Uh, so the third generation, yes, I would say let's need some time to really come up to the speed. The second generation, many of the IITs are doing quite well. And of course, the first generation's IITs are all doing quite well too. So that's a current situation. For a country of the size of India, there definitely can be many more high quality, should be many more high quality institutions. The challenge is getting the right faculty for them. Because if you don't get, initially, if you don't set up that culture, the processes, the right approach of the faculty, and the institution starts evolving differently, then it becomes a big challenge to correct that.
Hmm.
So that's where I would say the key bottleneck is. Of course, from the government perspective, the money is also because every new IIT setting up requires at least 2,000 crores. And then that's just the capital cost. And then, of course, you have to,
Yeah.
OPEX is continuous.
So I understand you have to leave for a meeting, but one of my colleagues wants to slip in a question. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, sure. Last question.
Okay. Abhinaya, please go ahead.
Hi, Professor Agrawal. I'm sorry. Just one more question. A lot of foreign universities are now setting up campuses in India. There are two IITs that have also gone abroad. In this context of research and adding seats to the higher education ecosystem in India, would you how do you see this impact of foreign universities that are setting up campuses here? Do you see potential benefits? Are there any concerns, challenges?
Well, there are potential benefits if uh, good universities come here, they provide good education. It's a net positive because clearly the demand is far more than what we can address so far. So if other universities are coming in doing their own investment to set it up, well, that's great. Uh, the concerns would do remain that it should not be, one hope that they don't treat this whole exercise as just a way to make money, because if because then the quality of education will suffer. They will only sell their name. And so that is something that I hope that everybody involved is going to take care of.
So, Professor Agarwal, I just wanted you to really comment on this quickly before you leave. But just on the status of maths education and how do we generate more interest amongst students on maths? Now, recently there was a news report which said, the government wants to start AI education in early school. And probably a better thing to do would be just improve maths education. I mean, a lot of people probably do not realize AI is mostly mathematics. So what needs to be done to improve mathematics education in India?
Improve the teachers. It's very simple. I, uh, Math, unfortunately, and it's not just India, it's worldwide. The way it is taught is, I think, perhaps one of the most dull ways or ways you can teach math. It's taught as something unnecessarily complex, abstract, difficult, and that puts off a lot of students. I think the math should be taught differently. It should be taught through examples, that here is a problem and you want to build a solution. Okay, you can build. Now, of course, I can think of some problem, but not at the level of schools. But I'm sure there are very good teachers who do teach it this way, and essentially start with the problem, or discuss about it, and say how it leads can be solved if you do the abstraction of the key elements of the problem and do a bit of analysis through the mathematical approach and produce a solution. A lot of the whole technology space has come out of through essentially this. I mean, at the end of it, it's all maths. And all that has been done is you have a problem, abstract it out in a certain mathematical terminology, use mathematical approach to produce a solution, and then translate it back to the real life.
Right.
So
Thank you.
that's how it should be done. But it's not easy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
training the teachers is the key.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure to have Professor Agrawal to talk to you as always. We just hope the next idea exchange with you will be in office. We would love to have you in office. But thanks for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you all.
Thank you.